The first duty of government is to protect our rights.
It's our job to maintain the proper role of government in what we were tasked to do.
If you really want to doge, this is how you doge. You don't vote for bad legislation that expands government. Thank you.
Now we're talking about taxpayer money, and we talk about accountability. It is their money. This isn't a government program we're actually spending on. We're actually giving it back to the people of Idaho.
There's other options for making our ballots more secure, such as using watermarks or putting holograms on the ballots.
And I think that that's what we need to look at more, is trying to get back to what we used to be, where our churches and our families took care of each other instead of relying on the state.
I asked the question rhetorically, if we gave them another $1 billion, they wouldn't be happy. Well, we've given them $2 more billion, and it's not enough.
We need to start making Idaho first. We need to start making America first.
Other states like Texas and Florida have enacted similar laws to address illegal immigration, both locally and in their communities. And Idaho has the right to protect itself when the federal government has failed to do that.
COVID presented us with quite the enigma. We didn't really know what it was or what to do, but that is no excuse to violate the rights of the citizens of the state of Idaho.
Say vote no on this and let the teachers teach and quit bringing in coaches to teach the teachers to teach, and let's get education going again in Idaho.
I don't know what's coming after this current administration for the feds, and we need this law because our federal laws on immigration have failed.
Mr. President, I think it's incumbent upon us to allow parents to use their hard-earned dollars to provide what's best for their children.
If I was looking at a business and I was looking at these figures, there would be heads rolling because this is unsustainable.
My concern is that the resilience of Idahoans who believe in self-reliance and self-responsibility will be eroded.
We need to be protecting our First Amendment rights, not inventing ways to slowly chip away at them.
The First Amendment and our freedom of religion, freedom of speech are our first liberties. They are so important. We don't have the rest without them.
Yeah, watch it.
Come on, guys.
For committee closure and as a housekeeping measure on the gubernatorial appointment withdrawal, it's regarding the gubernatorial reappointment of Estela Zamora to the Idaho Commission on Human Rights. And as the committee is aware, and you'll find a letter in your packet, Governor Little has withdrawn that reappointment from consideration. So as such, further committee action will not be necessary, and a correspondence to this effect will be returned to the President of the Senate, Lieutenant Governor, and subsequently will be filed in the office of the Senate Secretary.
Well done, everybody. Well done. We announced this previously on the program, but there it is, officially announced during the Senate State Affairs Committee this morning. The renomination of one Estela Zamora to the Human Rights Commission here in Idaho was just withdrawn. That was, if you were here with us last week, we made a big stink about this when we found out that Miss Estela Zamora had became very active on social media as an anti-ICE agitator, and as somebody who, there it is. There are some of the details on her social media, standing in quote solidarity, unquote, with the folks in Minnesota and the lawlessness that's going on over there. She was already on the Human Rights Commission here in Idaho, and once her reappointment came up for this session, we kind of sounded the alarm, and we asked, why would somebody like this be appointed to the Human Rights Commission? And so you guys made the phone calls. You contacted the committee. You contacted the governor's office, all sorts of people, and said, what the heck is going on? How is somebody like this in charge? Because she was at some point the chair, or whatever they call it, of these commissions, one of the deciders here in the Human Rights Commission. And so as of this morning, it's official. She is withdrawn from the governor does withdraw. And we have that letter here. This letter states here that, Dear Mr. President, President of the Senate, The purpose of this letter is to advise you that I have withdrawn my appointment of Estela Zamora to the Idaho Human Rights Commission, and her service on the commission has concluded effective immediately. Given that no further action is warranted regarding Ms. Zamora's prior appointment, please return Ms. Zamora's appointment packet to my office at your earliest convenience. Sincerely, Brad Little, Governor of Idaho. That's all you folks. That's what you did. Well done. Well done. And that is the importance of a program like this, is cutting through the noise, giving you the signal, activating, and taking immediate action when something like that pops up. And so we want to commend all the folks out there across the different social media platforms, across your telephone texting groups, whatever you're in, that said, hey, we need to mobilize right now and get rid of this nomination, because it was an abhorrent nomination. And so they listened and they took action against Zamora here, and she's no longer going to be and she's withdrawn. She's kicked off the committee completely because, like I said, this was a reappointment. So this is the power that we have here when we can mobilize. And I know I did a little bit of an admonishment earlier this week on showing you how well the left can organize, and this here is just proof that when we have the numbers and we have the leverage, because our state government is largely run by, quote, the right, the Republicans, people who stand for law and order, people who stand for strong borders and strong immigration policies. Yesterday in the afternoon, in one of the committee rooms, legislators got together to unveil some new legislation, some powerful legislation on immigration, dealing with all sorts of different aspects and areas in our state with immigration, and trying to do the best we can to combat illegal immigration and to make sure that our citizens here in Idaho have the resources available to them, not that they have to wait in line or play second fiddle to illegal aliens in our state. We'll have more on that conference that happened yesterday. We'll have more on that tomorrow. We'll get to talk with a few of the participants in that and share more of the details on those issues and those bills that came up, because as they stated yesterday during that hearing, which you can watch on YouTube, there's a bunch of people were streaming it live as well, and I encourage you to go watch it. But we'll have more on that tomorrow. As we dive into the analysis of all of the bills that are there. Okay. On that note, though, of course, is what happens when the left does coordinate, because apparently there has been at least 8 protests outside the Boise Capitol since session began just a couple of weeks ago, a few weeks ago now. And so, so there was a question that prompted the head of the ISP today in JFAC, and we wanted to play this clip for you. I find it very fascinating. This is the Democrat asking ISP this question.
From you as a colonel, something you're really proud of in regard to your units, your public safety, all that. You have to pick one, and then something that's really challenging you beyond the staffing, because we know that's there. So success and challenge that we need to know to address to help increase public safety in our state.
Colonel. Senator Winchell, I appreciate the question. I would say the benefit that I have as colonel is I get to see the things that you don't. I get to see the absolutely wonderful, magnificent things that our people do that you never get to see. Things that go above and beyond, I think, what the public recognizes. You know, since the session started, we've had, I believe, 8 protests out front here in the Capitol. And I can tell you that I am really, really proud of my troopers that are assigned here at the Capitol. And I'm going to be very frank about this, because it's really frustrating for me when they go out there and they don't pick a side. Their goal is to simply let people speak their mind and to exercise their First Amendment right. They don't pick a side. But oftentimes, those troopers are absolutely treated like trash. And it really bothers me as they are shouted down, doxxed in some cases, and all they're doing is trying to make it safe for anybody to exercise their rights. I'm really appreciative for troopers like Trooper Jason Cagle, who is at the back of the room. I hope he's still there. He is. Jason Cagle is, I don't know, Jason, what are you, 25 years you've been with the state police? And what I'm so proud about that is Jason could easily go somewhere else and make $15 an hour more, but he doesn't. I am so grateful for people like that stick it out, because quite frankly, I can't blame troopers when they say, I can go make $10, $12 an hour working for the county, and in some cases, not doing the same work, but doing lighter work. And so that's something I'm very, very proud of, is the people that we do have, they are very proud of being troopers.
Yeah, fascinating insight there, and we do commend the ISP and the folks that do work there. So all credit to those folks there. But what was fascinating, of course, in that statement was how the left out there protesting and what was the term he used? Treated like trash. Treated like trash. I don't think that's what Democrat Melissa Wintrow was expecting to hear, but I'm glad she heard it. I'm glad that question was prompted so that we all could hear that when the left shows up, these cops out there, these police officers are there to ensure that these folks are safe and that they are allowed to exercise their First Amendment right while being called trash. And he also said in some case doxed, and which is also fascinating considering I believe her and her colleagues are the ones trying to run a bill that would say law enforcement cannot wear a mask, cannot wear facial coverings. And we're seeing the reason why these ICE agents are wearing face coverings is because of that very reason, because of being afraid to be doxxed for trying to enforce the law. I mean, this is where the Democrats are in our country. They're just on the other side of the law, and it's really, really sad to see. Okay, I want to get through a bunch of stuff that happened yesterday in committee. The committees are moving right along here. Things are making it to the House and Senate floor, and we'll start dipping in live to those places. We did a little bit yesterday, but as these bills fly through, we want you to hear the debate. We want you to hear how it all works, how it all functions down there. And but in the meantime, we're still in the committees. So yesterday, in committee, a bill was presented by Representative Jordan Redmond from Kootenai County. This is another attempt to enact E-Verify, and we're going to let Representative Jordan Redmond here introduce that bill for you.
Record, my name is Jordan Redmond, representing District 3 in Kootenai County. The proposed legislation before you, RS 33182, would require that Idaho employees verify legal immigration status of their employees through the free E-Verify system operated by the Department of Homeland Security. It aims to prohibit the employment of unauthorized workers or aliens, require verification of legal employment status, and enforce compliance through penalties. This bill aims to deter illegal immigration by removing the job magnet from Idaho, protect American jobs and boost wages for legal workers, level the playing field for businesses, protect Idaho employers from unknowingly hiring unauthorized workers, and combat identity fraud. This is something that I have worked on with a number of legislators here, including the good representative from 12, and we believe this is a strong step forward for Idaho. Mr. Chairman, I would ask that you introduce RS 33182.
Okay, committee, RS 33182 is properly before us. Any questions or motion? Representative Harris.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, for a motion.
Motion's in order.
I move that we introduce RS 33182.
Okay, we have a motion properly before us to introduce RS 33182. Any other questions or comments? Representative Razor.
Good pronunciation, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Representative Redmond, I'm going to vote for the bill, but I will have some questions about the carve-outs. I just wanted to put you on notice.
Okay. Thank you for that.
Okay. I guess that's not exactly a question. Representative Redmond, if I could just ask in the full hearing, I also intend to support the introduction. I think it's an important conversation. Will you speak to how verification is currently occurring in the state of Idaho and what that looks like?
Absolutely. I'd be happy to. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, I see no other lights, so the motion again is to introduce RS 33182. Committee, all in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. RS 33182
All
is
right,
introduced.
very good
I am
there.
now
We're
going-
having an E-Verify bill make its way through. There was an E-Verify bill that was presented in the Senate that got a lot of criticism because it seemed to be designed only for employers that have a contract with the state. And when you look across the entire state, I think they said that accounted for maybe 1 or 3% of businesses that would have been captured in a realm where they are then required to verify using the E-Verify system whether or not their employees, their new hires, are in fact here legally and are legal citizens or legal residents or here authorized to be working here legally. So this one would cover all businesses. And as Representative Cornell Razor mentioned, he did seem to indicate that he saw some carve-outs or some exceptions to that. So we'll dive into that as well, and we'll hear more at the full hearing on that. All right, moving right along. Yesterday as well was Carl Bjerke, Senator Carl Bjerke. He was part of the DOJ task force over the summer, and they were charged with trying to identify ways to make government more efficient, condensing commissions, getting rid of commissions, condensing boards together, recommending where cuts can be, all the different things that we can do to make government more efficient. And he alluded to yesterday that he has several bills that he's going to try and bring forward, as well as many people who were on the task force, several bills to try in that very thing. It's going to take a while to get through all of these things because this is a single issue state. So you can't just run a big bill like they do in Congress and get rid of everything all at once. So that's the way it goes. I actually think in the long end, that's actually a good thing that we take one bill at a time. But that means sometimes the process can be a bit slower. That being said, let's listen to Senator Carl Bjerke here.
I'm here to introduce RS 32893, and it's good to see you, Madam Chair, and the committee today. This is the first of what you'll probably see, I don't know, at least from me, another 4 or so RSs that have to do with the interim DOJ committee that might potentially be beyond interim. We'll see as we move forward. A lot of this stuff, I kind of look at what's happening at the federal level was kind of, I don't want to call it a flash in the pan, but we don't hear a whole lot of DOJ anymore. Here in the state of Idaho, we kind of took a little bit more of the tortoise route, I believe, and I think we end up winning the race overall. We accomplished that by looking at things like just code cleanup, maybe combining some boards, and that type of thing, grabbing that low-hanging fruit initially. And as far as this RS, this is one of those code cleanups, and it's from the Commission for the Blind and Visually Impaired, and it's literally a paragraph that we're getting rid of. But like I say, we're starting out small, and we're going to finish big. Again, the first of about 4 you'll see from me. And this literally is just some outdated code language that talks about like a 3-step process for somebody to kind of be referred who was going blind from their doctor to the Commission for the Blind and Visually Impaired. So that's pretty much it. Just a little bit of this code to disappear. And with that, I ask that you would send this to print, and I will stand for any questions.
Committee, do you have any questions? Seeing none. Senator Blaylock.
Madam Chair, I move to print RS 32893.
Moved by Senator Blaylock, seconded.
Okay, so again, it's not the most crucial thing ever, but it's getting rid of a commission. Of a code reporting to the commission something. We have, you can go look at the bill, Senate Bill 1256 here, and see what it does. But basically, it ends the requirement that they report within 30 days the result of an examination to the commission, and therefore. So anyway, I like the promise that he said we're going to start off small and end really big. So we're definitely keeping tabs on that. I know you should as well, especially as he said, considering how it kind of petered out at the federal level. It's going to be up to the states to take care of our own house, and hopefully we can continue doing that here. All right, moving right along. I just want to keep moving right along here. Speaking of budgets and that sort of thing and spending, Senator Dan Foreman was in committee to present a bill that would put a cap on how much you can raise the maintenance budgets. Let's listen to a little bit of this.
Of a new section 67-3537. This legislation provides for a limitation on annual increases in the maintenance budget of all entities of the state government of the state of Idaho. It also importantly allows for exceptions to the limitation under certain circumstances. This legislation should have no negative impact on the general fund. However, the restrictions on annual increases to the maintenance budgets of the state entities may have a positive future effect on the general fund. This legislation will limit any annual increase in the maintenance budget of any entity of the state government of the state of Idaho to no more than the average percentage increase in the Consumer Price Index for all urban consumers for the western region of the United States, as published by the Bureau of Labor Statistics for the 12 months preceding the month and year in which state entities submit maintenance requests to the legislature and the governor. State agencies develop budget requests in July and August with submittal by 1 September of each year. Now, if the Consumer Price Index shows no average increase or decrease, the state entity maintenance budget request shall not exceed the previous year's request. The CPI-U represents all goods and services purchased for consumption by urban households. It reports price changes in over 200 categories of goods and services arranged into 8 major groups. The CPI-U for all regions encompasses approximately 80% of the U.S. population. The CPI-U is computed each month by the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics. Now, it's important to note this legislation supports a flexible and realistic approach to the state budgeting process. Any annual increase in the maintenance budget of a state entity may exceed the Consumer Price Index restriction in this legislation in the case of exigent circumstances, federally mandated expenditures, or sustained difficulties in keeping with such a restriction as it relates to meeting to operational objectives. This proposed legislation states the valid and important intent of the legislature to properly limit increases to the state's maintenance budgets while preserving the flexibility requisite to state agencies being able to properly function and provide the desired level of service to the people of Idaho. This legislation has been coordinated through Chairman Groh's office, and thank you for that, and with Mr. Keith Bybee, the LSO's Division Manager of Budget and Policy Analysis. Their suggestions have been incorporated into this legislation, and basically those recommendations focused on maintaining flexibility and not over-restricting people engaged in the budgeting process. So with that, Mr. Chairman, I'll be happy to answer questions.
All right. Thank you, Senator Foreman. Is there any questions? Senator Den Hartog?
Mr. Chairman, for a motion.
A motion's in order.
I move we introduce.
All right, the bill was introduced. There were some questions to Foreman there. There's going to be, I think there will be some questions on this. This sounded really good right off the bat, but obviously the devil's in the details. You have to dive into the bill and really read through it, see what the carve outs might be if it's all bark and no bite. But if that's the case, putting restrictions on how big the maintenance budget can grow is essential, absolutely essential. So that is really good news there. All right. Let's go to this final bill here. I'll let Representative Scott present it.
This resolution or this bill does is it will allow the legislature, if we believe that a rule is in conflict with statute or it alters substantive rights, or we formally notify the Supreme Court through a resolution. That's all it does. It's oversight but not control. It doesn't give us any authority to write court rules. It doesn't invalidate any court rules, and it doesn't interfere with the judicial independence. And if you look at the language, it's pretty simple. It just says the Idaho legislature may review any rules, court rules, including but not limited to Idaho rules of family law procedure, Idaho court administrative rules, the Idaho juvenile rules, upon any findings of conflict between court rules and Idaho code of rules abridging, enlarging, or modifying substantive rights, the legislature shall advise the Supreme Court of such conflict through a House or Senate resolution. So that's all this does, and I would ask that you would introduce RS 33036.
Representative Mathias.
Mr. Chairman, just for a quick question.
Go ahead.
Representative Scott, as I read this, you mentioned this doesn't create any new authorities for us or anything, and so I'm asking, can't we already advise the Supreme Court through a resolution on their rules?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and Representative Mathias. We could. It's not typical. It's not really ever been done. But through our family court task force, we realize that we need a process to make this easier, to bring things to the attention of the courts. And so we thought this would be a light touch on just bringing it to the attention, setting up the process, and drawing light to it that we can do that.
Excellent explanation there. Excellent explanation. I think this is something that's good. I mean, the legislature, they're the voice of the people. And if we are electing people to pay attention, pass laws, look at the rules, look at how government is functioning so that it is most efficient and most effective and most just and for us, the people, I think having this mechanism in here, it seems like a good idea. And as Mathias pointed out, there's nothing to have stopped the legislature from doing this before. But this kind of like gives everybody an exact pathway. They say they may not have known that they could have done this before. And it also puts the Supreme Court and the judicial system on notice. So I say kudos to that. It's a good move there. Helps us move us right along. Okay, before we go to a break, a couple of things. We are expecting that tomorrow will be the hearing on a resolution that would put to the ballot, to the voters, to you and me, the option to repeal the Blaine Amendment. We've talked about this extensively on the program. I encourage you to go to blaine.idahopetitions.com. Go there, watch the documentary, read up on what the Blaine Amendment is all about, the history of it, and try to educate yourself and understand. And if you come to the conclusion that we've come to, and not only us, but the Supreme Court of the land, many iterations of the Supreme Court, the United States Supreme Court, that the Blaine Amendments are unconstitutional. They're discriminatory and they're antiquated, and they really had no business being in our Constitution to begin with. And so we should just get rid of it because it is costing our state money by continuously having to defend the use of the Blaine Amendment by state officials when they go out and they discriminate against you and me. So please, as soon as it pops up, we're going to blast it on our social media. As soon as it pops up, you need to go register to testify, send in written testimony, and just share the link around if you're not one that feels comfortable testifying or putting stuff down into words. But we need a lot of people to show up and give this a lot of encouragement in the committee to just get it out of committee to the House floor. So this is step one in the process. We need to get it introduced. So that's been done. We need to get it passed out of committee. We need to get it passed out of the floor. We need to get it heard in the Senate committee and passed through there, and then passed out on the Senate and put on the ballot for November. So that's what we're looking to do here, and we got to take it one step at a time. So please head over to, you can scan that QR code or head over to blaine.idahopetitions.com to read all about it. Thank you so much. You are activated. Go, go, go. Another person who's totally activated and totally motivated to go is Lily Alman, In the Know, Idaho. We played her video. We had our latest release from her last week, and today there was an article down in the Twin Falls area. KLIX, I believe, is the name of the radio station. One of the hosts down there, Bill Cawley, wrote an article on, see, this Idaho woman put ICE demonstrators in her place. We played the video for you. It's caught fire online. So you're going to have to go ahead and check out the social medias to do that, to watch Lily's In the Know Idaho video. But it made some news down there in Twin Falls, which is great. The other thing, though, is she posted a video, I believe just yesterday, or maybe the day before, on gas prices. And the story behind that was pretty funny. I think she told it on the show that in that ICE video, people started noticing the gas prices that were behind her when she was standing on the corner. And they said, wow, gas is so low in Idaho. So she went and investigated the gas prices between Idaho. She lives up in North Idaho. And so she investigated the prices between Idaho on this side of the border and Washington on the other side of the border. We'll rewind this video and show it to you in full right now, and then we'll be right back.
Prices. Don't forget it. I'm here at the Washington-Idaho border in State Line, Idaho. We have the best gas prices around, and everyone from Washington knows it. Today's January 31st, 2026. Prices are at $2.18 per gallon. It's so busy here, and you look around and you'll only see Washington plates. Over the border in Washington, gas is ridiculously expensive, at least $1 more, usually. They have one of the highest gas taxes in the nation, and they've got a bunch of climate nonsense that they do that causes the prices to go up as well, because they don't actually want you using gasoline, and they make it really difficult for you to purchase it. Do you want to see what they deal with in Washington? Should we go take a look? I think we should go take a look. All right, let's go find the closest gas we can in Washington. This is only a couple miles away. I was not expecting this, but it's completely empty. You literally can't make this stuff up. Business is not booming here. Oh, spoke too soon. One customer just pulled in, possibly two. Okay, I went to another one. I was like, maybe this is an anomaly. Nope. This one is empty as well. Hey, Washington, I know where all your customers went. So it's amazing just watching all the Washington people flooding into Idaho and then driving right back and living there and voting Democrat. So how are we able to do this? How are Idaho gas prices able to stay so low? Quite simply, we're not socialists. We try to keep our taxes as low as humanly possible so that people can keep their own money rather than sending it through the government, making everything more expensive, providing services that are doomed to fail because everything that government touches, it corrupts. If you're moving here from California, which I think we're full already and everyone from California has already moved here, but keep this in mind. There's a reason for this. It's a policy thing. These are red state gas prices. Don't forget it. And now's as good a time as any to bring up the fact that we actually have some beef with Utah right now.
We have a situation where the speaker there is proposing to lower their fuel taxes in Utah by half. What he's proposing to do, as I understand it, is to raise a tax on the fuel at the refinery. I'm not sure, but I think they're shipping somewhere around 75,000 barrels a day up this way. So it would have a big impact.
So instead of taxing their own people, they want to tax our people. If Utah succeeds, it's estimated that we could see our gas prices increase by up to 25 cents a gallon. And nobody wants that, especially not all these Washington people. They would be devastated. Think of the Washington people. We're their last hope. They're getting taxed out of their houses by their crazy governors. They already can't use plastic bags at the grocery store. How much more do they have to suffer? Washington, maybe you can take a hint and stop taxing your citizens so much. And Idaho, just keep doing what you're doing. You're doing great.
It's our job to maintain the proper role of government and what we were tasked to do.
Idaho is the dirt under your fingernails after an honest day's work. Idaho is the hug around your neck when your daughter spells her first word. Idaho is the written word of the law, steadfast and impartial, guarding liberty for all. Idaho is the family rifle passed down, a legacy of protection and the right to stand firm. Idaho is the echo of your own voice, unshaken and free, standing tall among the world's silenced. Idaho is the home that's built to weather storms, not empty wallets. Idaho is the quiet trust between a patient and healer, unbroken and sacred. Idaho is the hymn carried by the Spirit, gathering neighbors together in faith and purpose. Idaho is the laughter around a campfire, a family's bond growing stronger with every word. Idaho is the pioneer's will, firm and clear. We govern ourselves, free and unbound. Idaho is what America was. Let's keep it that way. Ask your legislator to sign the Citizens Alliance of Idaho pledge to preserve our shared values. We ride together.
Hi, Matt. This is Bill Green in Coeur d'Alene. I was calling to ask you to maybe work to raise awareness about the Article 5 Constitutional Convention proposals that keep coming to Idaho. Idaho is very much targeted for that these days, and I'm hoping you might raise awareness about the dangers of such an idea. Bill Green in Coeur d'Alene. Thanks for your show. God bless you guys.
Hello, my name is Ella Myers, and I'm just thinking, you men already have the ability to stop all abortions, all unwanted pregnancies. Where is the protection for the women who carry the babies? I hate abortion. I think it's a horrible evil we need to eradicate, and it can be eradicated. It's called ejaculate responsibly. It really is that simple. Stop knocking up women. Unless you're married, don't have sex. If you do knock a woman up, then you need to provide for her clothing, her shelter, her medical care. I'm sorry, I don't believe you men want to actually stop abortions. If you did, you would put more protections on the pregnant women and, yes, unfortunately, young girls who keep getting knocked up. I'm sorry, it's easy. Wrap your tool or don't have sex. Ta-da! Bingo! I'm right. Have a blessed day. Bye.
Thank you, Ella. Thank you, Ella and Bill. Speaking their mind. That's what we love. Call in 402-4915, 208-402-4915. I told you we'd play your message on the air. I told you we would play it, and we do. Some good words to take in for this week. Thank you so much. All right, moving right along here. Is Brian Allman around? Are we there yet? Brian Allman, outside the Capitol, my friend. Good to see you. You got the specs on and the old chapeau. Very nice. Good to see you. We had the both.
Yeah,
the Senate.
It's 50 degrees down here in Boise. I don't know what happened to winter, but I'm not complaining.
Very good. It seems like we're on a little bit of delay, so I will take note of that and let you answer correctly on time. So very good. We just had this House and the Senate adjourn. There were a few bills that made it through today. Nothing too wildly spectacular. I just lost my list, but House Joint Memorial number 9 about federal land policy passed seemingly unanimously. Representative Thompson, the only one not in the building today. And then also House Bill 518 on human trafficking, that also sailed through with 2 absentees. And there were several other bills too. Well, you can go to the legislative website and update yourself there as well. But Brian, this morning in committee, they were back on it. We had the E-Verify yesterday from Jordan Redmond, and this morning Jordan Redmond was back with a bill that would want to track how many illegal aliens or folks are using the hospital system. Let's watch this clip, and then we'll get your reaction.
S 33186, the purpose of this legislation would be to require every hospital accepting Medicaid to include a provision on patient admission forms to self-report their immigration status, whether they are U.S. citizens, lawfully present in the U.S., or not lawfully present, while assuring that the responses will not affect any patient care or trigger any reporting to immigration authorities. Hospitals will be required to submit a quarterly report to the Department of Health and Welfare detailing the number of admissions and emergency department visits for each of these categories. The department must compile an annual report and bring it to the legislature and the governor, including the data of uncompensated care as well as for unlawfully present aliens and the impacts on the hospital services. So this is simply a data reporting transparency mechanism. We often hear that there's certain cost drivers within the Medicaid program, and this is part of that transparency. So, Mr. Chairman, I would ask for a motion to introduce RS 33186.
All right, Alman. It looks like Jordan Redmond there wants to. We just lost Brian. Well, folks, we'll get him back in here. But as you just saw, it looks like Representative Redmond is just asking for some data. We keep hearing about the resources being expended upon our folks or the illegal folks out there and being a strain on our citizens. Brian's back. Brian, you saw that presentation before earlier this morning. What is your take on the reason behind wanting to count who's coming through our hospitals?
Well, Matt, as they say, you cannot change what you can't measure, and we need to have accurate data. We see all sorts of claims out there that, how much it costs for illegal immigration to be in our society, both in school and in jails and in housing and healthcare. And so, in order to really understand the problem, the scope of the problem, and to fix it, we need to have accurate data. And I think this is a good first step. You'll see people on both sides. I mean, people on the right who want more immigration restriction will say that it's a drain on our society, on our economy, and our budget. But then you get people on the left who say, no, they're actually, there's no drain, and there's even a net benefit. There's a chart going around that the Cato and Libertarian Open Borders Organization has been posting on Twitter the last few days, saying that immigrants actually, or illegal immigrants even, bring up the cost of, or bring up the country, and they don't increase costs. But one of the sleights of hands that they are apparently doing is that they're counting the children of illegal immigrants as legal, as people who should be here, which completely skews everything, of course. I'm sure we're going to see some pushback on this. People say it's racist, people say it's invasive, but without accurate numbers, we can't really determine the impact to our budget and then what to do with policy going forward.
Yeah, and you raised some great points, and it's really sad to see a great old school institution like the Cato Institute defending illegal immigration. It's beyond the libertarians. I'm sorry, the big L libertarians are losing. They're jumping the shark big time on this. Let's listen to some of that opposition from a Democrat asking questions of Representative Redmond here. Let's play that.
Begbert. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Representative Redmond. For a question, and again, maybe it's more appropriate for a full hearing, but I understand the intent of this is to try and get some documentation around this type of care. But if I'm understanding this correctly, so any hospital that accepts Medicaid would need to add this to their forms, but that would be regardless of whether the person is paying for their care or not. Is that correct? So my understanding is that most undocumented individuals actually self-pay for their care in hospitals. Why would we want to collect that information, I guess, is my question.
Representative Redmond.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and Representative. Again, the sole purpose is for documentation to actually see what the utilization on the hospital systems is.
Follow up.
Just quick. So not just the uncompensated part, but more usage is the data that we're looking for.
Representative Redmond.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and Representative. Correct. Utilization as well as uncompensated will be part of the report.
Yeah, Brian, I mean, they seem to think that it's just about the dollars here. And really what it is about how many people are standing in line at the emergency room. Just like Brian. Poor guy, having trouble out there. But that's what it is, folks. It's not just about the dollars that's being expended for people that show up and they can't pay. Just because these folks are willing to pay and can pay their cash price doesn't necessarily mean that's the answer. Is to just is as long as they're paying, it's fine. It's the volume. It's the amount of people and resources and things that the hospital has that they've prepared for. When a hospital gets put into a community, they look at how many people are living there, and can they accommodate all sorts of different medical scenarios that may happen. And when you have a huge influx of people into that area, it's going to overwhelm the hospital. And so we need that data. We need to have that data on hand to understand how many people are utilizing the hospital, because until we get rid of everybody, we're going to have to, hospitals are going to need to show up more. And if we're using Medicaid dollars and Medicare dollars and all these other sorts of federal assistance and state assistance, that is eating into our budgets, and we need to understand who is showing up at these hospitals here. So an excellent bill here, just collecting the data on this and understanding where we're at. I don't know if we're getting Brian back again. It doesn't look like it'll connect right now, but there's been a lot of discussion about and we're going to shift gears. There's been a lot of discussion now in the education sector about the Idaho Digital Learning Academy. This allows students to partake in online courses through this academy that's available to all students in Idaho. And it's paid for by tax dollars. And so there's been this idea that when one student utilizes a lesson or a course in this Idaho Digital Learning Academy, that the state is then paying twice for that usage. It's paying the school where the child normally would be going to or is attending. It's paying the school money for that, and it's also paying the instructor who's doing that. And whereas it was expected, I believe it was expected that each student would cost X amount of dollars per student using this, and that X amount of dollars is being factored by 2 and sent out in 2. So there's a question of this double dipping the dollars to pay for one student. Let's listen to Representative Kent Marmon ask this question during a committee hearing today.
So, as I understand it, and I'm pretty new to the scene here, but as I understand it, the students taking IDLA courses generate IDLA funding for their home district under the ADA, right? And they're also generating income for the IDLA. So with this tight budget year that we're facing, how do we justify what appears to be double dipping, getting funded, the student getting funded twice, once for you and once for their home school district?
Mr. Simmons. Chairman and Representative Marmon, I think the way you have to look at it is that this is an investment with high ROI. So if you didn't have IDLA as an option, your needs for your students don't change, but the solutions to provide those needs to students become more expensive, because IDLA has been an efficient, scalable model. And so even though the school's retaining funding and IDLA is receiving additional funding, I think without that, your solution outside of the IDLA model would become incredibly more expensive for the state.
Follow up.
Go ahead.
So why, I still don't understand, why are we paying twice for the same student? The taxpayers are paying twice for the same student. Why?
Mr. Simmons. Chairman Hawkins, Representative Marmon, that's the way the funding model was established when this organization was created. I think if we're going back to the focus on rural schools, if Anthony has to lose funding to participate in the IDLA program, I'm not sure that IDLA is still the feasible program that it needs to be to support his students in his district, especially those districts that already have smaller resources. So I think that's one of the challenges when we look at that issue, is that we know that some districts are already trying to scrape together dollars to do what they can. And now if they lose this funding to use the resource they have available with IDLA, that is creating a new challenge for them. That's the best way that I could address that.
So yeah, big questions on this IDLA funding. Brian Allman had an article over at Gem State Chronicle, digital learning reform on the way, ? And there were concerns in here. Senator Cindy Carlson explained in the article here, where he quotes that your local school district receives state funding for every student through the average daily attendance funding. But depending on the district size and the characteristics, this typically ranges from around $7,000 to over $20,000 per student, with an average around $8,000 to $10,000. And the money is meant to pay teachers, cover costs, and educate your children. But here's where it gets concerning. The same district can place your child in front of a computer during the school day to take an IDLA online course, and then the state pays IDLA $445 for that course separately from the average daily attendance funding. So the district keeps the full $8,000, and then and the IDLA receives $445, and your child gets a screen instead of a teacher in a classroom, and you, the Idaho taxpayer, just paid twice for the same student in the same course. So there might be two different ways of looking at how these dollars are spent, but this is a concern. It's being raised, and we need to come up with a better answer as to why this is happening this way, and if this process is correct. And the gentleman there, and I forget his name, it may very well be true that that's how the statute was written and that's how the funding was originally set up. But if that's the case, guess what, folks? There's new sheriffs in town, right? There's fiscal hawks have finally shown up. And they have numbers on their side, and they're going to dive in and look to this stuff, especially now when we think about DOGE and we think about trying to write our budget because of an apparent shortfall that we have in revenue, which again, I cannot wait to see what the January numbers are going to be. But we had that budget graph up yesterday that showed how much December's revenue skyrocketed and basically brought us our revenue actually was more than projected, when in the summer it seemed like it was going to be a shortfall. So there's a lot of moving parts, folks. We're trying to catch up. We're trying to stay on track here. All right, let's see if we can get through this list today. I hate holding stuff over, but if we can get through our list today, that would be fantastic. There is one more bill that came through today. The intent is designed to protect our children. And that is something that everybody, who's going to say we want to harm our children, right? But this is, who's outright going to say that term, right? There's plenty of policies out there that have harmed our children and the things that people have advocated for, but I digress. This here was Representative Jaron Crane presenting a bill that would tackle the addiction that our kids have to scrolling through social media. Let's watch a little bit of this argument.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. So House Bill 542, I think that it's important that we look at every great piece of legislation that we move through this body has a genesis. It has a why, and how did it come about? And last year in the off season, I got a phone call, and it was my brother-in-law, and he is a youth pastor, has been for the last 10 plus years at our church in Nampa, and he's recently now the associate pastor. And he called me and he said, "Hey, I got an issue that I have to deal with today." I said, "Okay, what's going on?" And he said, "I'm going to a meeting of community leaders, law enforcement, superintendents, teachers, other faith leaders. And we're wrestling with how to combat the problem with the kids here in the Treasure Valley that are killing themselves. They have body dysmorphia issues. They're depressed. They have anxiety." And I just kind of listened to him go on about the different issues. And I said, what's the common thread? What's the reason why? And he said, social media. And I said, we can do something about that. So I began to work on this legislation. It's the first of its kind in the United States. You'll see other bills have tried to move through the process across legislatures, been struck down. This is different. We're not going after content. we're going after addiction. And here in the state of Idaho, we take that serious. We go after tobacco, we go after alcohol, we go after other things where we regulate that. But when you look at the statistics of what's happening to these kids, the childhood of the 1990s that I knew is gone. They're not rollerblading, they're not riding bicycles, they're not out there on skateboards, playing out until it's dark at night, it's gone. You can't drive down the freeway and look over and not see some kid on their phone who's supposedly driving a vehicle. You can't go to a ball game and look at people up in the bleachers and not see a kid doom scrolling. Whether you're Black Friday shopping and they're standing in line, or whether you're just going around town, they're walking on the sidewalk, bumping into each other, they're addicted to their phones. And so we have to start to look at, is that intentional? Sean Parker, the founding president of Facebook, has been explicit both about the goal and about the intention triggering of biochemical addiction, mechanisms to capture the time and attention of users once they log into the social media platform. The thought process that went into building these applications was all about how do we consume as much of your time and attention as possible? And that means we need to give you a little hit of dopamine every once in a while. It's called a social validation feedback loop. You're exploiting the vulnerability of human psychology. This exploitation of children's psychology is embodied in specific interface features. Professor Mitch Prinstein has explained that data reveals that social media stimuli, such as receiving likes and follows, activates a social reward region in the brain. In other words, these features of social media capitalize on youth's biologically based needs for social reward before they're even able to regulate themselves from overuse. The U.S. Surgeon General has noted evidence that social media exposure can overstimulate the reward center in the brain and trigger pathways to comparable, much like addiction, resulting in excessive use and behavior dysregulation. Likewise, Adam Alter, a professor of psychology and marketing at NYU, has researched social media design and addiction extensively. And it explains that social media addictions haven't happened accidentally. Instead, they're a direct result of the intention of companies such as Facebook, Twitter, to build sticky products, ones that we want to come back again over and over. Formerly, secret internal TikTok documents only recently made public as a result of litigation confirm that social media designers are well aware that minors are particularly sensitive to reinforcement in the form of social reward. They have minimal ability to self-regulate effectively, and they do not have executive function to control their screen time. Given these facts, it's distressing but not surprising that today large number of children and adolescents are seriously addicted to social media as a very practical matter. In one study, 6th graders picked up their phones on an average more than 100 times per day, with some interrupting daily activities to pick up their phones over 400 times a day, most often to check the social media apps. In a recent study by the Pew Research Center, 35% of teens reported that they are at one or more of the major social media platforms constantly. And a majority of these say it would be very hard for them to give up social media. So overwhelming and unconverted evidence establishes that the mental health of children and adolescents in America has dramatically deteriorated since 2010. This includes sharp declines in happiness and life satisfaction, and deeply concerning increases in loneliness, anxiety, and depression. The deterioration of mental well-being among the young is so severe that the admission for inpatient psychiatric care among minors, a step that's not taken lightly, increased by 26% from 2009 to 2019, but with psychiatric admissions for girls up 49% over the same exact period of time. The broad decline in mental health includes sharp increases in suicidal thoughts among the young, and of paramount concern, even sharp increases in death of young people by suicide. From 2009 to 2019, the share of high school students seriously considering attempted suicide increased by 36%, and the share creating a suicide plan increased by 44%. Between 2007 and 2018, suicide rates among youth ages 10 to 24 in the United States increased by 57%. The 2023 CDC Youth Risk Behavior Survey reported the distressing figures that 39.7% of students experience persistent feelings of sadness and hopelessness. 28.5% experienced poor mental health, and 20.4% seriously considered attempting suicide, and 9.5% had attempted suicide. So what we're facing today is not anything that we've ever faced before. It's not the childhood that we grew up with. These kids are given something in their hand that was built on the premise and the foundation of addiction, and that they can monetize and target these kids. This bill is the first of its kind in the country, with the prongs and the pillars that we have put in as the tenets and the foundation of this legislation.
All right, and there were some questions, but House Bill 542 there did pass through committee. It'll be heading to the floor for some more debate and action on the floor. So, folks, I encourage you to read through this bill. It's like he said, it's one of a kind. So I'm not sure exactly how you get the Google and Apple on board. The chairman of the committee, Brent Crane, did say he'd been talking with Google and Apple because they see this bill and what it'll cause them to have to do, and so they're trying to come up with ways even outside of this bill to tackle this, because this is an issue. And I think there was something in the Epstein files lately that kind of showed how Zuckerberg wanted to get his platform to be go after under 13-year-olds. I'm hoping it was about the platform and not everything else that Epstein was talking about. But that's an aside. You can go look at that stuff yourself. So that's 542. We'll keep track on that. I'm sure you will as well. Folks, I want to thank Brian for trying to come in today. It was tough out there out in the park, but it was a beautiful shot, and I'm glad we did get to spend some time with him. I'm glad you got to spend some time with us, and we look forward to coming back here tomorrow, and especially paying attention to the committee hearing on the Blaine Amendment tomorrow. Outside the Capitol, Brian did send us this shot outside the Capitol today. There were some protesters out there. They want to add the words sexual orientation and gender identity to the discrimination rules here in Idaho. I just hope, based on the head of the ISP, the Idaho State Police, that these folks were much nicer to the police officers out there, allowing them to protest. That's America. You can show up, you can protest, you can have your First Amendment rights. Folks, thank you for joining us. Be sure to give us a call, leave us a voicemail. We got some winners today. It was fantastic hearing from both of those folks. 208-402-4915. And then be sure to listen to us over on YouTube, subscribe, and we'll see you tomorrow.
Puts a stake in the ground that says we have a sovereign right to protect what's ours.